Okay, hopefully I have audio here. um, Hi, I'm Brandon from the Orchard. We've got a logic board here from a Mac clone, one I have not seen until right now, and we're going to try to figure out what's going on with it. Apologies for this cord. My headset was completely dead, not because I didn't charge it, but because I didn't turn it off, so the battery ran down. All right, so let's get to the board here where we can see this and have a look at what's going on. So this is from a PowerComputing Power Center Mac clone, and the board itself looks, even though it's at the age where it should have a lot of leaking, it looks clean. So the issue, as I understand it, with this. And Brian, if you're here in chat, you can correct me or elaborate. But the issue, as I understand it, is basically this computer just suddenly wouldn't power on, and it uses a standard ATX, so it's easy to test. Of course, I can't find an ATX power supply around here. I've got one coming in the morning, but in the meantime, recapping is probably the first step to troubleshoot this, and then examining it if I can get my scope to work. Let me actually try that one more time because it was not working before, but you never know. Just a second here. It won't chime. Okay, got it. Okay, for some reason the scope won't work. I'm going to give it one more shot at disconnecting and reconnecting and see if that does anything, but I kind of have a feeling it won't. It's weird because I heard that. Well, there we go. Okay. Yeah, still not showing up in the list. I do not know why. Last time I checked Device Manager, it was showing up as a unknown kind of device. Now it's not. And actually, it is showing up in Device Manager under cameras. So let me go back to the list here one more time and just see. It's just not there. All right. Well, anyway, I'm thinking of a workaround, but I don't really want to try it in the middle of a stream. So let's see what we can do with what we got here. So let's go back to this camera. All right. So as far as looking for anything that what I was hoping to do with the scope is looking for anything that might be like visibly shorted or any kind of burn marks or anything. See, there's okay. Let me just see if even if I can't project this scope camera, I may be able to still view it. I can. Okay. Let me see if just going to check one more time just to see if it showed up over here. Nope. Okay. I know relaunching Streamlabs would make it show up, but in any case, there's something here I want to look at, and if it's relevant, I'll take a still of it and put it up on the screen. But there's a I don't think this would make it out chime, but there's something weird going on right about here. Get this thing to focus. Sometimes handheld's a lot easier. There we go. Okay. Okay. So there's something on one of these chips here, and don't know. It should not be there. And okay, it just came off. Just some kind of debris. Okay. Just looking for anything else here real quick. Yeah. The board itself looks quite clean. Honestly, it looks a lot better than the first party Apple boards from this same era. they weren't bad, but this would be the kind of the like 8600, 9600 sort of equivalent in terms of when it was built, as well as the kind of the specs, because it's a 604. So what this doesn't have is caps on the bottom. The 7500, 8500, 9500, and 600 of all of those have, I don't know, there's about 8 caps on the bottom, which is kind of inconvenient. But anyway, all right, so I'm going to just go ahead and do this recap here. And like I said, I'm not going to be able to actually test power it until the morning. You said, Brian, of course, it may have been an issue with how it was installed, so it could be fine. Well, yeah, but I think you said it was working, so I'm assuming that it's probably not that. It's interesting, I'm looking at the solder in these holes where the second SCSI header could be. And it's so weird. They're like, clearly they filled the holes from the bottom, because I don't know if it'll focus here, but I don't think I can get it closer than that. But it's, you can't really tell from this, but there's some of them that look like they have almost no solder in them. Anyway, all right, yeah. So let's get these caps off of here. I'm gonna do a quick snapshot just for sort of insurance against losing track of which caps go where. So we're just gonna do, this is kind of meta, right? Okay. Just making sure I can actually read the caps from here. I can indeed. All right. So let me get my surface mount caps here, and let's see how many we've got. So we got a 47, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18. There's a lot of caps on this board. 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I counted about 26. I may have counted them some more than once. And then the other cap value on here is 33 microfarads, which don't have, let's see. Yeah, I don't have, I have 3.3. So I need to get some of those. So I'm not going to pull those ones off just yet because I want to be able to test this. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the 47. So, and what I'm using is aluminum polymer. So these are they look like the original, the same sort of can style, but they are polymer inside, which means that they don't just leak like the old ones do. Granted, these ones, that's not enough. These ones do not appear to have leaked, which is fantastic. But even the cleanest board, you never know once you actually look underneath the cap. There can be unpleasant surprises. So this is twist off method, which some people will tell you is very dangerous. I've yet to lift a pad. Look at that. Yep. It is leaking. Just hasn't spilled out yet. So I don't know if you can kind of see right there. It's not really. Anyway, yeah, there you can kind of see a little bit, a couple dots of moisture there. So it did leak, which makes me think probably the rest of them have as well. So this is an example of catching it in time, and that's what we want. Yep, that one hasn't leaked yet. Such a rare thing to see. That one, just a tiny little bit. I'm just Yeah, yep, it is moist. So it looks like they're just starting to leak. So this was the perfect time to take care of this before they started spilling out onto the board and potentially corroding things. That one, yeah, just a little bit. So yeah, so it looks like most of these have leaked just a little bit, which doesn't really come as a big surprise. I was actually surprised to see how it appeared to have not leaked, just from looking at the board. 7, yeah, that one. That one hasn't leaked. I'm gonna take off my watch because it's not working with this stupid cord. Let me see how charged this thing is if I need to still have it plugged in. I got to 10%. This is supposed to charge. This headset is supposed to charge super fast, so I'm surprised how long it's taking. And I've got it plugged into a charger from my Pixel 8 Pro, so it's definitely getting enough power that it should be fast charging. Okay, so again, this method generally gets kind of quite a bit of pushback from certain people. However, the only time I have ever had pads come off with the cap is when the cap was already so compromised that that the pad was already loose, just because it had leaked so badly. It was just sort of dissolving the solder bond of the pad itself with the board. And so basically the pad was just sitting there loose underneath. But as far as I know, I've never actually ripped one off by doing this twist off method. Okay, I'm looking for any other easily accessible, and then I'll get to the other kind of pliers for the ones that are in between other components here. Okay. Yeah, that one's got just a little bit of moisture. It's really an interesting experience actually to see these just starting to leak. Because especially for a machine that's from about 1997 or 98, by now typically there would be quite a bit of leaking. That one's going to be hard to get to. This one between the two connectors is going to be really hard to get to. The good news is that there will almost definitely be no lifted pads from this board because of the state it's in, where it's just started to leak. Okay. All right, let's see if I use these angled ones, it'll be easier to get to some of these others. And I don't think my mic's picking it up, but I can hear some of these. I can hear right when the legs kind of break off the caps. So I know it's loose. Some ASMR, but I don't have the right kind of mic for getting right up to the board. Yeah, this is whatever's wrong is not due to leaky caps. It could be the caps are out of spec. They're not supplying the correct capacitance just because they're old. But I would not expect that without any evidence of leaking. That certainly if that was the case, it wouldn't be by very much. And in fact, I might test a couple of these, test the capacitance here before I throw them away, just to see. Actually, I think I'll do that because it's interesting sometimes to see if they've changed, especially without leaking. Yeah, these are almost all dry. It was just a coincidence that the very first one I pulled had that little bit of leaking. Let me know if my mic gets too loud or too quiet here. It's hard for me to tell from the headphones. And do we have any more for you? So very much like the 8600, 9600 boards from this same time period, definitely there are a lot of caps on here, like a lot more than you would find on most other Power Macs. Yeah, I think I got all of the 47s there. So we got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Looks like there's just 3 of the 33s. 33. Okay. Let me test these and see what their capacitance is reading. And this is something you can't test in circuit. They have to be pulled off or somehow isolated, basically pulled off the board to get a reading. You'll get a reading. It just won't be correct. Okay. Let's see what's negative. Okay. So let's see. This is in the. It's 47 microfarads. So we'll go to 200 range there, and let's see what we get. Oh, wow, that's got a glare there. Okay. Oops. There we go. Okay, now that should be visible. All right, let's see what we get. I didn't actually look before. So we should be getting 47. And I mean, look at that. That's it couldn't be more on the nose than that. So I'm guessing I'm going to get the same result out of other ones. Just spot check a few more and see. I mean, these are just, now that's interesting. What does it change? Okay, this is all over the place. That's, okay, I think I just didn't have the probes. Look at that, 47.0. I think I just didn't have the probes positioned right on that one. Let's see. $47.1. Yeah, these are exactly where they should be. Honestly, I'm kind of impressed. 46.989. Yeah, this is interesting. 47.3. I'm just, what I wanted to do is find one that had visible leaking on it. The last one I did may have. Let's see. They get separated here. Okay, this one's got leaking. It's separated from their little plastic bases, and so I can't look for the drips. This one, yeah, this one is leaking, but it's still totally right on where it should be. So look for one more leaky one. Does that have a, well, it is slightly. All right, and this one is 48. I mean, these are all putting out what you would expect. So frankly, the reason for recapping is more about just because they're starting to leak versus because they're not the right capacitance anymore. You said based on how clean the board was when I opened the system up, wouldn't surprise me if it was recapped before. No, I don't believe it was recapped before. It could have been, but looking at the soldering here, this looks like it was done by a machine. This soldering is really quite perfect. And there's no evidence of any kind of scraping or anything. So I would be very surprised if it had been recapped before. And in fact, I've never seen a board where every single cap came off with the legs still stuck exactly how they should be. I mean, this is just the cleanest board. So no, I can say pretty much for sure it has not been recapped before. It is possible that, these were very expensive, very high-end machines. So there's quite a good chance that they were using maybe more expensive caps. Although honestly, I don't think if the caps cost twice as many cents as the other ones, we're still talking about pennies. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're any better or any less likely to leak. They may have, better manufacturing quality control or something like that. But, obviously, like if you buy caps from Panasonic or Nichicon or something like that versus one of the cheap ones, like I can't think of it, but it's that German sounding name that they all have the red printing on top. Hang on, now I want to find the name. But they're, more suspect. What is DigiKey? Name is, let's see. Let me just see. I'll be able to find it quickly. Looking for that, and the brand name is Worth Electronic. Not going to try to say it with a German accent. I know I said it wrong. And so their caps for, essentially the same product as any other brand tend to be usually the lowest price on the search results page. So if I sort here by price, I just looked up random, get rid of the out of stock ones. I just looked up a random 47 microfarad 25 volt and polymer. And when I'm sorting by price, they range from 44 cents a piece up to $1.85. So the dollar, well, that's a marketplace one. Let's look at just exclude that. So okay, $1.84, and so that's for a Panasonic Oscon, which is like the kind of original of the polymer ones. And so that is, $1.84 is a lot for one little fairly ordinary cap, but it's Panasonic, and it is, it's kind of gold standard for these. But if I scroll down the list, I'm seeing Nichicon is next, and then Vishay, and then Panasonic, Nichicon, Panasonic. And then we get down here to Worth Electronic, and that's actually $1.10. You know what? That's crazy. Because the ones that are under $1 are mostly Chemet and Chemicon. There's even Nichicon. Okay, I guess it's not a good example, but this Worth Electronic is definitely the least expensive, or among the least expensive for pretty much any caps I look up. All right. So what I'm going to do before I can put the new ones on, obviously, I need to get the old solder and the legs of those caps off of here. I wish I had. I don't know how well I can. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Let me turn the light. There we go. So you can kind of see right here, the legs are still stuck, and they're perfectly straight. They're perfectly centered on the solder pads, exactly like they should be. And I can pick any random place that I've taken them off, and you're going to find the same thing. They're perfectly centered, perfectly straight, perfectly aligned. I mean, that's not normal. That's super extremely high quality manufacturing right there. I can go to any of them and see they're all just perfectly centered. So that tells me it was either done by a machine or by probably very well paid human technicians. So anyway, but I need to get these legs off and try to do it without flux, because the desoldering braid does have basically its own flux in it, but and I'd obviously rather not clean up this mess, but without applying the flux, it may take longer to get them off, and obviously on a nice board like this, I don't want to apply heat to it more or longer than necessary. So give it the best chance I can of getting these off quickly. At this point, I'm going to warm up the soldering iron. Let's see. And I don't want to forget my fume extractor that I usually forget, and breathing the dissolving flux and solder is probably not healthy and certainly not pleasant. Though this particular chip quick flux doesn't smell too bad. Definitely smelled worse. So it is a bit inconvenient that some of these are very close to plastic components, like these two right here. They're right next to this slot. And so, obviously I'm not going to melt the part of the slot that would affect being able to insert something into it. But, the goal is to not even bump the iron against the plastic. It's more cosmetic, but also when it melts the plastic, the smell isn't very nice. And the soldering iron tip is obviously not made for, it's made to melt solder, not plastic. So leaves kind of a mess behind. Okay, did I get them all? No, there's another. I can't believe how many are on this board, even though, like I say, it is pretty equivalent to the 8600 board. Okay, I think I got them all. Okay, all right, here it goes. Turn this on. I don't think that's going to be too loud. Not even sure if my mic, it may just noise cancel it out. So let me see how it charges battery is, because I'm kind of tired of this wire hanging off my head. We're at 18%. Let's just. One second. Okay. There, I'm back. Okay. This headset is really expensive, and the design is good, except the way the mute button is, and the button that puts it into pairing mode. Not great. Not ideal. All right. So again, I wish I had the scope camera here, but it is what it is. Yeah, these are. You know what? I'm not sure these are all legs, because what appears, so on this one, let me try to get a little closer here. So this one here that I just did, it looks as though it still has the legs, but in fact, that's the shape of the pads. This is a design like I've never seen before. It's really not. Whoever designed these, manufactured these, this was quality work. And if I'm not mistaken, this was the kind of the last clone brand to die out of all of them, because Apple sort of brought it in-house kind of at the end. And I believe AppleCare even became the support contact for machines that were still in warranty or whatever, whenever that happened, kind of at the end of the clone era. And of course, by the time there were G3 Macs, there were no more clones. To their credit, Apple really did up their game on Pro models. By the time of the G4, the G4 towers, those were probably a lot like this in terms of quality and capability, etc. So that's not to say the competition wasn't still a good thing. Oh, you know what? I missed two more of these with the flux. But the time when this was made, they were not all in on the most top of the line there was not a lot of multiprocessor kind of stuff going on. And that's the kind of stuff that pros at the time wanted. And of course, that was kind of the very beginning of the actual digital movie production kind of era. Apple certainly had machines with AV cards before that, but it wasn't for doing anything like Final Cut kind of work. And it really, oh my God, there's two more I missed. And it really couldn't be until they sort of upped, like with even the DV iMac sort of became entry-level video work capable. And of course, getting FireWire on everything helped, because that's what all the cameras of the era used. All right. Should probably be counting those as I'm going to make sure I know how many caps I'm going to be putting back on, but I think I'll spot any that are missing. So as I said, I will ultimately replace the 33 microfarad caps as well, but since I don't have them in inventory, I'm gonna, as soon as I've got that spare ATX power supply tomorrow, I'll go ahead and test this and see if we can get power. And if it doesn't want to actually turn on, then try to trace where there is and isn't power. Try to get to the bottom of what's going on, or at least where it's happening. Interestingly, I feel like I'm not completely saturating the wick here, but I feel like I'm pulling a lot more solder off of here than I typically do, which again, may be evidence of the quality manufacturing work, because not being stingy with the solder, although I don't know that it really matters. You've either got a solid connection and it's thoroughly stuck to the board, or not. So I wouldn't fault them for not using excessive solder. Okay. So yeah, as I had thought originally, even though these pads are shaped like this and look like the legs are still there, it turns out that the legs are in fact there. Like, every single one of these caps left his legs behind on the solder pads, and that is very unusual to have them all just get left behind like that. But I think that is more to do with the fact that they hadn't all leaked yet, because that's what causes the legs to come loose. Because if it's not compromised, if it's still soldered in place nicely, and the leaking electrolytic juice hasn't started to dissolve the solder, then the legs should be more firmly attached to the pad than to the cap that they came with, because solder is basically welding, and welding is very strong. And I don't know what's going on inside the can of these caps, but I cannot imagine that the legs are attached in there any better than the way they're welded to the board. So just a thought. All right. I'm about 3/4 done here. Getting these off. Yeah, this is a cool experience to actually be able to do this before the leaking has gone beyond the top side of the bases of the caps, because even though I could see it, I could only see it on the, basically the top of the little plastic foundation of the caps, where it touches the can, and it wasn't underneath those little bases, which is where I'm used to seeing the leaking residue. But again, it's because of how early in the leaking stage these are, and some of them not even at all yet. Okay, let's see what I've got left. Got one there, one here. This might be the only one, so I'm going to do one more check. This little leg that left behind. 3, I see 3 here. That may be it. And as far as I know, I haven't touched any plastic yet, so that's a good thing. As I'm doing this, I'm kind of gently scrubbing the pads, but not, that's another one, so that's 4. But not giving them a lot of pressure. I don't want to scrape the mask on the top of the board here, especially because it's so shiny. It's in such good shape. I mean, I wouldn't want to damage it anyway, but yeah, it's extra motivation to have an opportunity to have a pristine board when I'm done. Because usually I don't have a pristine board to start with, so there's no hope. Although I can often get them looking a lot better afterwards than when they started, just by cleaning them. And I don't always use the ultrasonic cleaner anymore, because if I get the flux off right away, like with this board, there's no reason to ultrasonic clean it, and it's just, like I say, I want to avoid excess heat on the board. I also want to avoid other things that kind of stress it out. Okay, I think I got every one of these pads here. This one's a little bit something on it. I think it's just flux. Okay, so let me just inspect this closely now. There are a lot of pads in this area where there could have been things attached. I mean, look at all the, here, an IC there. You've got those. You've got this. That had a cap. But anyway, there's all in one section. Here's another. Oh, there's a spot I missed. Although again, I think kind of most of the Apple boards comparable in time and specs probably had quite a few empty spots for components that they never ended up having. And who knows why. Okay, there's more empty ones. Yeah, I think I got them. Okay. So I'm going to clean this flux now because I don't want to. I'm going to add more for putting new caps on, but I don't want to leave it any longer than it has to be. So let me just keep my hands clean. So this is a combination of just wiping it off, and then also I'll use some isopropyl alcohol on it. All right. So I thought I just saw flux indicating that I missed one, but I'm really quite sure I didn't miss any. Okay. So let me just start from the end where I am. again, by doing this now, there's not going to be flux residue left that would even benefit from ultrasonic cleaning. Also, to be honest, the ultrasonic cleaner is a pain. But that's not a reason to not use it. It's because it doesn't need it. That's the reason. I think the green mask on this board actually is maybe a little thicker than most, because the heat didn't do anything to it. And normally I had that at 600 Fahrenheit, and normally that would, you'd see like something where it's scraped a little bit or something. And there's just nothing like that on here. So I think it's just good quality board. There's one. There's a couple more. So I think just from wiping this off, I think I'm not going to use IP8 at this point. I'll wait until I'm done putting new ones on. But I won't wait until after the 33 microfarad caps, because the flux becomes very difficult to remove once it's been there for a little bit, even a day. Learned that one the hard way. Okay. Did I miss any? Some in the middle. Yeah, these pads are just fantastic. This is just. Sorry, I sound like a broken record, but this is a freaking quality board. This is. It's just so much better than the Apple ones. So it may be that in this era, maybe you kind of got what you paid for. Because, a lot of the clones were, I think a lot of the motivation for the clones was trying to sell cheaper macOS computers. But some of them, like this, were really meant to be something that would compete at the very high end of the market that Apple was. I don't want to say ignoring, but not as focused on. Oh, Brian, if you're looking at this right now, I just wanted to point something out here, that it arrived this way. This is broken off here. The piece was not floating around in the bag with the board, so my guess is that it was already broken, but I wanted to document that little piece is missing. Should not prevent putting the module in there, because these aren't really clips, they're more like guides. So I think it's sort of the pins here pushing against the module itself is really what holds it in. Okay, so now let me get some fresh solder on here, or some fresh flux on here. And I'm not using very much because the solder has its own, and because it's harder to clean up once there's actually a cap on top. And you think you broke that off when you broke. Okay. And that's not a surprise. Again, I can tell you the plastics on this board do seem to be good quality. I really do think that they probably intentionally chose components that were maybe a little bit, I didn't wipe that off before, or maybe a little bit more expensive, kind of for everything. And so it may be that that's maybe as good as that plastic could get, but I'm guessing the case plastic probably is not as brittle as, like in particular, the 7500 and 7600 cases. Those were just awful. Those are the same form factor as the G3 desktop, and I guess the G3 desktop's just as bad. It's just that they might be a year or 2 or 3 newer, and so they maybe aren't quite as bad. Remember when those were new and or newish, and the plastic was great. That outrigger case, the style was fantastic in terms of serviceability, and who knew that convenience would turn into a bad thing, because since everything in there was plastic, it all crumbled together, and some of those cases just become literally unusable. Okay, I think, no, there's more. Keep surprising myself how many caps there really are here. Part of what makes it hard to find these is, again, all of these pads for things that are not there, are not meant to be there. I'd be curious if maybe some of those are components that maybe another model of PowerComputing that use the same kind of board, but maybe those were components that were there and were not on this particular model. Who knows? Okay, I think I got all those. It was fun to carry on and off. Oh, the case is metal. Yeah. That's right. That's how most computers other than Apple's were back then. And generally they were a lot more sturdy than the plastic ones, but they also were a lot heavier. And wherever there's metal inside, I gotta say, the brittle plastic, the one thing it does have going for it is it doesn't slice up your fingers when you're working inside the computer, which is an enormous problem with some of the more poorly designed machines. I've never actually seen a Power Mac 4400 in the flesh, but those were the ones that was like the one time that Apple tried to use as many commodity parts as they could, and it was almost as if they were building their own clone. And so they the case design in there was clearly not like normal Apple cases, because they were using, they made the bezel for just a generic off-the-shelf case. Okay, so now I'm going to do this cap count again, and I'm going to try to be more accurate this time. So start over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got those two. Okay, I think there's about 25, so I still even all of these. Only grabbed 23 caps because I thought that would be enough. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that was 10. 15. It's funny, I opened up, this got a Apple IIc Plus, which is a very rare, just because they didn't sell a lot of them, even though the price was good and the specs were great. It was faster even than the 2GS. Anyway, I just got that machine, and I was surprised to find there were basically 2 caps on the logic board. That's it. And it was through hole, so they were not the leaky kind. Okay, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, I guess that was 25 right there. I've got 3 more. Okay, an extra pack more than I thought. All right. Just warming this iron up. It's pretty quick. Should have turned it on a second ago. Decide which of these I'm going to try to hold these with. So these replacement caps, these are 47. They're marked as 20 volt. The originals were 16. The reason that I got these, 2 reasons. One is they're a little bit smaller physically than the other ones, which just makes it a little bit easier to get the iron in there. So there's the size comparison. It's not a huge amount smaller, but it is smaller. And then also the voltage is the limit of what it can handle, not any kind of requirement. So getting one that can handle a higher voltage is going to work just fine. And it turned out that in the bulk 1,500, I don't know, whatever at a time that I get them, it ended up being less expensive. I'm also noticing something. I think why these pads are the way they are. Yeah, actually for sure. So what I didn't notice before is every one of these pads, let's see, I'm hoping it'll be visible here. So there's a plus symbol right there next to that, but also in the middle, that little white dot there is actually a plus symbol as well. And the reason why these have 2 outlines is it's the shape of these and it's the shape of the tantalum. And so tantalums have, well, actually, oh, that's weird. Tantalums have their markings. I don't know what to say. The line on a tantalum cap indicates the positive side, whereas on every other kind of cap, it's the negative side. And so it wouldn't be labeled any different. I don't know why. And those are definitely both plus signs. Anyway, but yeah, the outline, the rectangular outline, is clearly, where a tantalum should land on the board. So, like I've got a couple of Mac 2FXs, and on those ones, sorry, my cords are getting all tangled up here. The caps on the board are, I think, tantalum from the factory. Certainly my Quadra 9500, they're tantalum from the factory. And so, but on the 2FX, I think it is, there's literally double pads for every cap. And so one of them is for tantalum and one of them is for aluminum electrolytics like this. And so interestingly though, you can use the same pad. There's no, a lot of people recap with tantalum. I've done that sometimes. And some caps I have to use tantalum because there is no polymer available for those. And those are, make sure I got that right, yeah. And those are, they either kind can go on the pad. So it's not really necessary to have a different pad, but anyway, that's how they designed it. And then some of them shipped with tantalum, I suppose, and some didn't, or they were leaving themselves open to have that option. Interestingly, the 2FX has all tantalums, at least on the 3 boards that I have. They're all tantalum except for there are 2 of them that are hidden under the not under the power supply, under the hard drive sled area, and those ones are leaky electrolytics, like really leaky, bad leaky. And so if you don't, if you look at the board and you go, oh, it's all tantalum, I'll just defer this till later and deal with machines that are really leaky right now. And if you don't look underneath the that where the hard drive goes, you wouldn't see it. And 2FX is not a machine that you want to allow to get ruined by leaky caps. It is a very sought after machine. By far the fastest of the 030s. Okay. I don't think I need to re-tin the tip, but it's just getting dirty there. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which end to do first on these. I guess this end. My hands are all shaky, of course, because it's time to hold them still. I don't know why the solder keeps moving up the tip. It's like it won't stay on the end where I'm putting it. That's so weird. Okay, I'm gonna do something. Yeah, I'm gonna do something about this. I don't want to have to swap a hot tip, but maybe if I can re-tin it, clean it. It's just looks fine, but whatever. It's just. Oh, I think I'm supposed to put flux on it. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. Hoping. Looks pretty much the same as before, but we'll see. Maybe it'll work better. Okay. Which side? Where? Oh, it's working on that one. Okay, let's see if the side will stay down at the end. Yep, it's a little better anyway. Did not get very much on that end. Okay. Thought I'd started another one somewhere else. I guess I didn't. Okay. Anyway, no matter how hard I try, I'm not going to get this. Oh yeah, I did start another one. I'm not going to get this to. I'm not going to get my soldering to look as nice as the factory soldering. Not that I would on most machines anyway, but this one is just done so nicely. This is actually turning this around over and over is one good reason to not do it under the microscope, because then I keep moving that. But an upside of the microscope is I can get a better view of whether I've got these on securely. Okay. So this is kind of like watching paint dry when it's just from the overhead camera. Right? I know. Why my hands get so shaky whenever I try to do this. Okay. So many more. At least, since I use this many caps, I use the mostly the most common one, which is this 47 microfarad. So at least they are not. It's not super expensive to recap because they're such run-of-the-mill caps that it uses. Making sure I've got these facing the right way. Okay. That is not stuck in place very well, not at all. Should not have been able to move like that. Here's where I could really use that scope. I mean, it's there, it's attached, it's got a solid connection, it'll be fine. Okay, I don't want to keep putting heat on the board to mess around with that. So there it is. One of the downsides of pre-fluxing these is sometimes you rub the flux off. You're reaching over. So it's better to start kind of from the outside of the board and work in, I guess. That's good. It does help when boards have the little outline of the cap on there with the angled corners. So you just get a visual replacement and you just know it's correct. Although I have seen occasionally where the silkscreen has mistakes in it. I wouldn't imagine on this board that would be a thing. It's definitely, yeah, I think the engineering is way too good for that. Okay, so here's where I've got one of the old ones in between, or one of the 33s in between 247s. And so by using these smaller, physically smaller 47s, it's going to be a lot easier to get these on and also to get that other one off once I have a replacement. Which will be next week sometime. I just need to put in a DigiKey order for those. And yeah, that leaves lots of space. It is basically if it's adjacent to another pad, then I just put it a little off center, a little bit closer to or away from the adjacent cap. So only where there's more than 3 in a row does that not work perfectly. Okay, those are nice and secure. Okay, here's an interesting one. This is right next to the SCSI connector here, right there. And right where I'm pointing with that's one of the pads. So again, I'll do it a little bit off center. And try to protect that SCSI connector the best I can from any cosmetic melting damage. And No. That was too far off center. Okay, there we go. Actually, it probably wasn't off center. I just, without direct light on it, I couldn't see the pad. Okay. Now I've got them next to the ATX connector here, but fortunately the pads are this way, not this way. So that makes it much easier. Much less risky. And let's see. Okay. Yep. I don't know if it's, yeah, you can still see it on the camera how many I still have left to put on here. And that's assuming I didn't miss any when I was counting. At this point, I'm confident that I didn't miss removing any. The first go around, I'm just not 100% certain that I found everyone when I was counting. But once they're on, it'll be a lot more obvious where there are naked pads. Okay, here's one where it's not so nice. So this battery connector, battery holder here, there is that pad right there, right next to it. I guess that close to the camera, it looks like it's farther away, but if you look at the which way, the width of the soldering tip, it's not leaving a lot. I'm not going to melt it, but if I didn't know better, I might. I could, of course, replace the battery holder, but again, it's manufactured quality parts. There's no reason to mess with them. Okay, and so by using a smaller cap, putting it a little bit off center. Yep, perfect. Okay, oops. You know what? Gloves are definitely not helping. Okay. This one right here goes like this. Okay, and quite enough solder there. These pads are overall slightly larger than normal ones, and so it seems like I'm using more solder than I normally would. That's not a scientific assessment, but it just kind of feels that way. Which is good because it means it's even sturdier. Okay, so this one, I need narrower pliers to get it centered. Okay. Sometimes I'm not careful, I get a death grip on these, on the pliers, and it makes the, it'll actually like pinch slightly to form the metal body of the cap. I don't think I've done that for a long time. Probably I've had enough practice by now. I've done a whole lot of boards. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Cosmetically, not beautiful. What happened here? Not happy with this one. I don't know, maybe there's still some solder left on the tip, but okay. This one's gonna get removed and redone. I'm just not happy with it. I'm sure the connection is more than fine, but it's not pretty, and this board deserves to be pretty. Okay. Give it a little shot of flux here. Okay. It's things like that where I wish I had the scope working. But I don't. The only way I know how I could fix it right now, but it would involve closing Streamlabs, which would temporarily disconnect me from the stream, which even that isn't a huge deal. The problem is Streamlabs has an update it desperately wants to install every time it launches, and then it always fails. But I have to wait while it downloads it again. And it doesn't matter that I have a gigabit fiber uplink because it downloads at like, I don't know, 5 megs a second or something. And it's an enormous file. I mean, relatively enormous for having to wait for it over and over. So I don't dare do that because then I could end up not reconnecting the stream in time, and then YouTube would just end it. And I don't want to do that. I think I have 2 minutes to reconnect. I don't know what the timeout is, but I don't want to find out in production, as it were. Okay. Okay, so I have 4 more of these. Okay, okay, this one's going to be a real pain. So this one right there. Again, on the camera, it doesn't look like it's that close, but I'm telling you, that's the width of the soldering tip. You know? Anyway. And as precise as they did these in manufacturing, there was, I'm sure, no risk for them. Plus, there's a high probability they did all the surface mount components first and then came back and did from the underside the through-hole stuff like those slots. And so not having them on there when they were doing the surface mount components like this, whether it was a machine doing it or a human doing it, they didn't have anything sitting there just waiting to melt. Okay, so it looks like I got 2 more left after this. Go. Okay, so where are the 2 I have left? I don't see them. If anything, I would have undercounted. Okay, there's 1. Where the heck is the other one? Let me do this one first. I could swear I said 25. I had 25 caps here. Okay. There. Melt this thing. It's already a little bit cracked. Okay. All right, where is this last cap? Sorry. Oh, right here. Found it. But from all that looking, I feel even more confident that I haven't missed any. And let's drop it in the flux. That's a good way to keep it clean. These much better pliers for this task. All right. So one more look, but I think I got them all. So one of the telltale signs that, not guaranteed, not 100% guaranteed, but one of the signs that the caps are the polymer kind is the printing is almost always in color, like these ones are blue. And the other common, so there's the two most common are this 47 and then the 6 or 6.3 volt 100 microfarad, and those ones are, at least of the ones I've got, those ones are red, which makes it very easy to tell them apart from the two, since most boards have just these two. And then sometimes some boards will have one or two little tiny tantalum ones. Anyway, but sometimes these are also printed in gray or black, but usually it's sort of better, I'll say better quality printing. It looks better than the older ones, although these older ones are printed better than many that I've seen. Okay, so now comes the removal of the flux, where I can't just wipe it off with the little pad because I can't get to it with the little pad. So we're going to use these sort of giant mop size Q-tip things. What I'm going to do is the ones that I can get to, I'm going to wipe up what I can, just because the cotton bud things can only absorb a little bit because the pad on the end is not very big. This one is much bigger. Also, these little pads are per piece a lot less expensive. Not that in bulk that the Q-tips are very expensive, probably a penny a piece. Okay. I don't know much about weed culture, but apparently these buds are used for something. And based on the reviews on Amazon, it was very clear that most people use those for something to do with weed consumption or production, or I don't know. Anyway. Okay. That's probably about as good as I'm going to get for the big whatever. So this is IPA here, and wherever I manage to smear some of the flux before, just kind of mop it up with this. So I'm not doing just right where the pads are, but kind of around it for whatever I spilled around it before, just because that leaves the board a little bit less shiny otherwise. And on some boards I wouldn't care and wouldn't know the difference, but on this particular board it's about as shiny as they can possibly get, so it would be sad to not leave it that way. And okay, so it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but I'll go over it one more time after I do the other, because I've still got to do those 33 microfarad caps, and a lot of them are adjacent to these, so it's just going to get more flux again. But as I say, if I let this stuff dry, it's 10 times or more harder to remove it later. So do my best now. Okay. Here is a spot where I couldn't get to it at all with the little pad in between the memory slots and the cap there. Yeah, I cannot believe there's no damage to the mask at all from that very hot soldering iron. I say very hot. I don't mean as like hotter than normal, but by their nature, they tend to be quite hot. I don't need this extractor on now. But yeah, so 600 degrees Fahrenheit is quite warm. But I found that temperature works better for me than slightly lower temperatures. And I recently learned that there are some, especially on through hole, where there are like solder plugs basically just covering up hole, like here where the other SCSI connector could be. So one I was just working on. Okay, I'm just smearing it now. That the ones that are connected to ground apparently need quite a bit more heat. And so I've got this desoldering gun that makes removing through-hole solder so easy. But I've learned I have to set it to be quite a bit hotter for those ones that are in the ground layer of the board. Okay. I think like most people who do this kind of stuff, I didn't get formal training. And when I was in college the first time, they did make me take a class called computer electronics, which was sort of a theory kind of class. And unfortunately, didn't get as much out of it as I should have. But it's a funny story because the instructor, his name was Jack. He was a funny guy. And he, I think it was his first quarter teaching there. And as I recall, he may have gotten hired like maybe as late as the second day of classes, like because we were considered the bubble in my program, where there were a whole bunch of students who started the program at the same time, because it was one of Boeing's layoff seasons. And so there were all these people in worker retraining. Anyway, so this is an afternoon kind of class, like 3 p.m. And those are, tend to be a little bit more chill just because it's kind of, I don't know, but they usually are. Anyway, so Jack didn't exactly read the textbook ahead of time for what we were going to talk about in class. So to put it bluntly, he was not prepared to teach. He showed up every day. And I'm not sure how much of the material he even, really had experience with. Not to say that college instructors or professors always have the most firsthand, direct, experiential knowledge with what they teach. But anyway, so he would sort of, I don't know, kind of read along with us in class. And I think he was seeing a lot of the textbook content for the first time at the same time as we were. Anyway, there was this incident, which I won't get into because I don't know about statute of limitations, but let's just say he found himself without his Porsche drive to work. I think it was a Porsche. And so he was having to take the bus, and he lived, you know, we were at the school was at the north end of one county, and he lived in the middle of the next county to the south. So it was a very, very, very long commute by car, and even probably longer by bus. But for a time, until he got a new car, he was taking the bus. And the first day that he had taken the bus into work, came into class, and I think he had page numbers written up on the board, and he was just all ready. And it was clear that he had gotten so bored on the bus that he actually opened the textbook and looked at it before he showed up to teach it. And anyway, I like Jack. I'm not trying to say, bad things about him, but it was clear when he was prepared to teach and when he wasn't, and normally he wasn't. So that was my extent of my formal electronics training, and it's unfortunate that was the last quarter actually that the guy who kind of founded the program at that school was teaching. He died shortly after that, and I could have had the class from him, and at the time I thought I was glad I didn't, because I thought he was probably mean and a tough grader. But I realize now I probably would have got a lot more out of the class that actually is applicable and useful in things I do today. Okay, so I believe, yeah, I got all of those clean. So it's still shiny. You kind of see it's still shiny. There's yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you can't really see the, well, like here. So like around that cap, it's not super shiny, but that just kind of rubs off. So anyway, that's it for the ones that I can replace. Now, I don't have, as I said, an ATX power supply that is handy. I've got one coming. I do have, would take me about 4 or 5 minutes to get to it. I do have some down in the storage room, but I don't know how good they are. And one that I'm thinking of in particular is inside a computer that had cap plague, where it's got surface mounted caps that the tops are all venting out shiny. You like it? Appreciate that. The caps, I don't know if how many people have ever actually seen what happens with cap plague on the surface mounted caps, but I'll just show you. This doesn't have the problem, but it shows what it does. So different brands have different, let me switch to manual focus here. Go as close as possible. Okay. So they always have a pattern, like this one's just a plus or an X. Sorry, this light. So there's that plus kind of cross pattern there on the top. And some of them, this one, I don't know if I can even see what brand it is. That's a Nichicon. Those are good ones, of course. Here's I don't know what brand, but this particular brand, they use a T shape instead. And so sometimes it's their brand. I think Kemet uses a K shape. So anyway, but the purpose of these little score marks is so the cap can vent. So when the ones that had cap plague, which was an era when the story goes, somebody stole a formula for the juice inside the cap from some other company. They wrote it down wrong or something, and it worked, but they eventually all failed. This style, when they had the bad formula, it would vent out the top. And so literally where the score is, the pressure would just kind of pop it open. And then you'd have like this sort of, it almost looked like foam coming out the top. And so it's an E-Machines, kind of after the heyday of E-Machines, but it is that brand tower that I got from a client. I removed it from anyway. And by the time I opened it up, the caps, almost all of them had vented out the top like that. So the power supply in that machine, there we go. The power supply in that machine, was manufactured at the same time. I'm sure it was manufactured by a different company than who assembled the computer, so probably it's different brand caps or whatever. But that's the one that I I know right where it is, and I don't want to take a chance on using that just in case, even though I would really like to test this right now. So I'm going to not do that, and I will order the other ones. In the meantime, I'm going to pull out a couple other things here. Let me just put this aside. And okay. So here's the G3 board. So this board looks like Brian is the only person watching at this moment, but if anybody is looking at this later, he's the one who sent me these. And this one I've had on the bench before. I recapped it a couple of years ago, or about a year ago. And so yeah, it didn't travel as well, I think, as you hoped based on how you packed it. So just some feedback on that. This came off the CPU, and in the pressure of the wrapping, it could have potentially even cracked this. So I would never ship it with this on because it just the little clip doesn't hold that well. So I'll put some new thermal compound on there. Well, no, I won't, because I'm not gonna put it back. And then this is this is 7400. So this is the G4 chip. Just a nice upgrade for this G3 board. The other issue, I think, because of this coming off, is it scratched this nice ceramic. There, it's just cosmetic on the surface. It's not a big problem. And the perpendicular DIMMs here didn't seem to be an issue, and the VRAM traveled okay. Better to pull batteries before you send it. Although I reread the post office restrictions, and it turns out if it's installed in a way that is officially how it's supposed to be installed as part of the whatever it's supposed to be installed in, you don't have to do the disclosure thing of the lithium battery if there's just one of them in the box. So crap, but don't worry too much. It's looks like the CPU survived just fine. But I'll ship it back with this not attached to it. And then yeah, so I just wanted to look at my work on this board. Just so the story of this board, there was no battery on the other one, so you did take it out of that one. I think it's just this one that has it. It's got really twisted in a weird way. I'm not going to mess with it. I don't want to break it. It should work fine. Anyway, I'm looking at this board. That one. Yeah. This was some of my earlier soldering work. It's everything looks good, and I of course I tested continuity on every cap. But yeah, I think. Oh, no, I don't love the way the solder looks on that one. I'm going to redo that. Yeah, let me just replace this one cap right here, because it's the way it's on the board. It's this one here. Let me manual focus so it doesn't try to do it for me. So this one, can't tell where it's focused. Okay. The solder on this side is like, I don't know if I can show it very well, but it's very sort of flat. There we go. I don't know. Versus the other side. Anyway, and then the cap is crooked. Like it's yeah, you can see pretty well there. It's not exactly flat on the board. It's like bent, like this kind of. So I'm gonna just remove this one and put a new one on. It's these same caps I've already got out on the bench. But I don't. So I know the issue that this was having has to do with the IDE, and this cap is specifically labeled floppy. So even if that's not a good connection, and it literally just came off. Oh my God! Wow, that just completely came off. Okay, that was I'm embarrassed. That was not acceptable. I'm really sorry. I'm glad you sent it back so that I could. How that hooks up to the all-in-one. You're talking about the one down here, the CD audio, or CD audio there. That was the one I was talking about. It's the guide thing. The pins are straight, but the guide thing is kind of this way instead of that. It's just slanted a little bit like that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let me get this, but I'm glad you sent it back because this definitely needed a redo on at least this one. I'm gonna look at the other ones. This is, by no means anywhere close to the first board I ever did, but in fact is probably the 5th of this exact board that I did within a short time. But I've done a lot more since then, so I'd say I have more experience now. Not that inexperience is an excuse for this, because that's the condition this was in. I'm wondering if the cap kind of twisted a little bit afterward because it didn't adhere that well to the pads, maybe. Because I don't think I would have sent it back to you like that. I'm quite sure I wouldn't if it had looked like that. So anyway, okay, those pads are shiny as they're going to get. And I also think maybe at the time I did this board, I was kind of in the habit of using not using flux for putting them on because the solder itself has it in there. But I know now that that it's really important to use a little bit more, not just trust what's there. So that side is good. That side is off slightly. Okay. Just wiggling it. I want to make sure it's actually okay. So that's really adhered. Now, these other ones. Okay, that one's nice and firm. That one's firm. I'm hoping it was just that one that was like that, but not finding any others that are loose at all. Now, I mean, that one, you saw how it just came right off. That's really not normal. This one I don't love, but it's good enough. I mean, it's working, so I don't want to mess with it, especially because it's really close to the plastic. Okay, yeah. So the rest seem fine, but that floppy one. Did you have any issues with the floppy drive on this, or was it just the hard drive? Because if anything, that I think it probably was securely connected, good continuity, but but it could have been wiggling. Might have been a little loose. I don't know. Well, I mean, it was loose because it just like pulled off. So yeah, if anything, I wouldn't have been at all surprised if there was an issue with the floppy drive. Okay. The cap itself would have been fine. So if there was yeah, it would have been fine. I'm gonna clean because you're gonna need to put new thermal compound on this. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean off what's on here now. Because that's it's not gonna be usable. It's dried out already. And I don't want it to smear on the way back. Okay, what's left here? Oh, that is thermal compound too. That's okay. it's a little bit dry. This is the part that wasn't right on top of the metal where it makes contact with the heatsink, so it's been drying out ever since the heatsink went on there. All right. There's a little bit of sticky residue here from the little void sticker that they put over the overclocking pins. This board could be clocked way higher than any chip that they ever sold it with. This board really is barely changed from, or I should say that the next one, the blue and white G3 board, barely changed from this one, and then even the very first G4 barely changed, which is why this CPU module works on this board, because that very first one, and then all the other G4s after that, this was redesigned. It had a way bigger heat sink, different pin, just it wouldn't fit in the same socket. So, yeah. Okay. So other than that, I was going to look at the. I want to do that under the scope, but just look at the IDE connectors. But they look good. I mean, they look. These are from the factory. Yeah, I can't imagine. I could reflow those, but I don't think that that's what's causing the issue with the drive. They look solid. I mean, there's so many. Basically, like where this cap came loose, it was only attached to the two pads, just two solder points holding it in place, and one of them was basically not even there. But back here, each of these has 40 solder points on it, so they can't like wiggle, and like break the continuity of one of the pins when all the rest are in place, because it's kind of there's just so many bits of solder holding these on. I don't know. It's a mystery, but I've got another drive on the way that will be here on Friday that is known to work with this board, supposedly with all the revisions. And so I'm going to give that a test once that arrives. And this one uses the same power supply connector as the clone over there. So anyway, all right. So I think that's it for that. And then I was just going to quickly triage these other pieces. And Brian, I know it's late in your time zone, so if you would rather I do this another day, let me know. Don't have to do it tonight. But let's see. Okay, so this is the G3. Okay, so this card, this G3 card, this is for the power center. Is that right? I'm assuming because it looks like it's that slot. Okay, I gotta cut this. Huh. So this actually, that's quite interesting. Okay, yeah. So, what's interesting about this though is this has, it has a couple caps that need to be replaced, several caps that need to be replaced, and they are all 47s. So it's the same ones I just did. But what's interesting about this is it has the same kind of CPU card as the G3 board, which means you could actually put a G4 onto this card as well. And it should be 100% compatible. So you could actually upgrade the power center to a G4 which might be actually more interesting than upgrading the all-in-one. This heatsink is not doing much. It's totally loose. But anyway, so this needs to be recapped. Just the some of them are tantalum, some of them are these through-hole ones, which should be fine. But there's 1, 2, 3, and one under here, so that's 4 is the one underneath. It's also 47, so it looks like there's just 4 of them. Anyway, but that's interesting that it uses that same ZIF CPU design. Okay, this is the front panel board from your 6400. Just a plate of aluminum. Well, yeah, but it's a heat sink. I mean, that's the purpose it serves. Okay, so this has one of each kind of caps in that one. And then this is a zip drive, I believe, for PowerBook. Yeah, okay. Remind me again, what's the deal with this zip drive? Does it not read at all? I've got a PowerBook. I can stick it in to test it right now if that's useful to do. Although whatever it does in yours is probably the same thing as it will do in mine. Where is that PowerBook? Where did I put that PowerBook? I'll be right back. Thought. Well, maybe I don't have one right here to stick it in then. I thought it was back here on this table, but it's not. Okay, well, I moved it somehow. Nope. Okay, well, I've moved it. Okay, the zip drive doesn't do anything. Doesn't show up. Okay. Does it power up? I mean, like, can you eject the disk? Or does it just not even seem to be getting any power? I see it's been opened before because the void warranty sticker is pulled. And sorry, I know you've told me this stuff before. I just, my memory doesn't seem to get power at all. Okay. So I wonder, this one is a curiosity. I just wonder, where's my little screwdriver? Doesn't eject. So it doesn't eject even with the like with the paper clip, or just it doesn't eject with the motor. I just say morbid curiosity here. I don't know how many screws I have to take out to separate this. Yes, those are as well. Motor, you didn't, oh yeah, so there's a little dot there, that's the, I think that's a paperclip hole. Wait a minute. I think it's a hole, hold on. The paperclip over here because I couldn't get the 2C plus to eject earlier. So let's just see if, yeah, it is a hole. Looks like the paperclip has to go a lot farther in than a typical CD or floppy drive. Well, let's just see. I'm just gonna take this top off of it. Ah, there's a sneaky little screw on the side too. Oops. Okay. All right, now the top should come off. All right. So what exactly does the paperclip actuate? I think I can see it. It's this thing. So if I push this, that will eject it right there. Oh, sorry, that wasn't on camera. I'll do it again. Oops. There we go. So it does eject. The disk wasn't stuck. So I think it is just a matter of not having any power. Therefore, it couldn't use the motor to eject it. So with that out, it's clean inside. No, you could. Oh, no, you already told me that. Okay. So what is this on the back? That's the BST interface. I don't want to. Oh, okay. Pulls out. It says Dalmatian/zip board. Interesting. Mainly what I was looking for in here is for caps, but it looks like they're all tiny little tantalum ones. In order to get to them, I have to take this board off, which looks like it should be okay. I think as long as I leave those other ones in. I'm going to need a smaller bit than that. Where am I? Small bits. Let's drop something. It's the box for this thing. It has all the little bits. Of course, I can't find it. Okay. I happen to know there's one on the floor. It's from my other screwdriver that's, of course, not in the thing. Okay. This is a nice small one. All right. Okay, that one's too small. Oh. So that's a 000. Oh, this set even has a quadruple 0. So let's try 00. What I really need is a single 0, which of course is not in here. Wait. No, it's not in here. Because I am just genius like that. What size was this one? That was too big. That's a 1. This is going to be 2. Okay. Ah, here's the screwdriver that has a single 0 in it. Okay, let's try this now. Yep, that's okay. I don't think, I'm not expecting to see anything on this board that will be helpful, but as long as I've got it torn down this far. Might as well take out this last screw and see. Okay. Now. Oh, damn. Okay, so this is a very, very thin PCB here. Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to take that off. I am not taking that off. There's nothing to be gained from that and everything to be broken from that. So I will try. So just to be clear, Brian, you've tried, I'm assuming, other VST modules in the same bay, like a CD drive or DVD or floppy or something else like that. Just want to make sure we know that the connector inside the bay works. They work, okay. I assumed so. Again, I'm pretty certain I've asked you that before too. Okay. Well, I don't see, I mean, this, It's like there's just nothing to it in here. I mean, it's a very simple drive. So this connector was securely attached. So it, it should be making a connect. Well, let me just look at this board, but yeah, these are strong. So I'm sure that this little board isn't the problem, and this is what actually connects to the connector inside the bay. So where's the? There it is. Okay. So I'm inclined to test this with another known good machine, and I've got a VST zip drive just like this, presumably identical, which I'm not positive I know exactly where it is, but I know that I can find it relatively easily. Okay, let me get, because I just don't want to lose any of these teeny tiny little screws. Low torque. It's not a huge surprise you to get a second new old stock CD drive, and it died the second time you tried to use it. But you have another CD drive that does work. Can't tell if the battery's dead on this thing or if it was just meeting a lot of resistance there. It's the battery. Speaking of which, how's my headset doing? Huh. I'm pretty sure it said 17% when I unplugged it. It says 19% now, so go figure. Since I'm not using the cord for that, I'll use it for the screwdriver. Okay. So, yeah, further testing is required and or expected or appropriate or whatever. I can get that back out if I need to, so I'm going to just leave it in there so it doesn't get lost. Okay, so I'll put that aside for the moment. And other than that, there's another, okay, these are the other parts for the power center, so I'm not going to take that. Well, are there any parts in here that may need caps? You said you replaced the drive inside the enclosure. Panasonic or Sony. Okay, so that was the one that died the second time you used it that you replaced the drive inside? Or something other than that? So this is very interesting. This RAM actually has PowerComputing screened on it. Okay. That actually has PowerComputing screened on it. I've never seen a PC maker put their own brand name on run-of-the-mill RAM before. Okay, so this one also has a cap or two that need to be recapped. So without objection, I'll go ahead and replace any of these surface mount caps on these just because they need it. This one's got a bunch of them too. 75 megahertz. Oh, that's VRAM apparently. -30, so it's got a 30 nanosecond latency. Whereas regular, well, pre-power PC Macs had 100 nanosecond, 80 nanosecond, like crazy slow VRAM. And so this says 256K. So do you know how much video RAM is on here? I'm guessing if it's either, yeah, it's got to be 1 meg. Oh no, hold on. No, it has to be 2 megs. Because if it's 256 times 4. And then they've got their video BIOS on there. Okay. So yeah, this one though also, so everything I'm finding here, it's all, yeah, 2 megs. That looks about right, which is fine, because 2 megs will get you to, it'll get you to thousands or millions of colors at more than 640 by 480 for sure. Yeah, so these chips say Apple on them. So this is the one piece that was the license to the clone. I mean, literally, that's what makes the clone a Mac, or act like one. Okay, and then don't worry, I'll put all these back together. Okay, so this is a floppy drive. Wow, that floppy drive from the 6400 is actually quite clean. It's also, it's a Sony, but it's a style I've never seen before. This is definitely a different model than any of the Sony ones I've seen. And it looks like, well, okay, I can't say that for sure, but it's not the typical one I'm used to seeing. Plans for the PowerComputing to drop in a card from Blue and White. Okay, yeah, it's a good plan. Or you can get quite cheap on eBay. You can get the whatever that one that came with the 9500, 9600 machines, which would have been period appropriate for this. But I think those had maybe 8 megs of VRAM, which, you know, for the time is crazy. Huge amount of video RAM. SG RAM, probably. Okay, I just want to, so this drive is clean, doesn't need cleaning. This is, yeah, look at that. It's interesting. Yeah, so it has one cap, but it's a through hole, so it's not likely to be leaking. It's 4716. Okay, but yeah, this looks different than what I'm used to. That's really interesting. It almost looks like they simplified it, and the eject motor is definitely one I've never seen before. So that's so weird, because I mean, I've opened up so many of these manual inject drives. I thought I had seen every variation, and in fact, even the lubricant on the worm is still slippery. Not okay. Well, this. Oh, okay. 1 second. There's the only thing that this needs, and then it's done, is just to remove this stuff and just put some fresh on it, because and what's on the worm, yeah, it doesn't need to be cleaned off. It's still slippery, which usually it turns into something a lot more like glue. I'll add a little bit to it. So the first time the drive goes on and moves around, that'll get distributed across the worm. Okay, so yeah, I don't see anything else that this drive needs, and there's no recap on this one. But always check those floppy drives, because I'm pretty sure it was a Mitsubishi manual inject that had one of the leakiest caps I've ever seen on anything. Was on there. Okay, so I think, is that, no, there's, I think this is the last of it. It's just one more drive, no, 2 more drives. Okay, so Would you look at that? This is the same one from the clone. No, MPF 92A, MPF 52A, but yeah. Okay, Mitsubishi. That's from the G3, but it doesn't have the. Doesn't have, oh my God, that's filthy. Yeah, that needs some. That needs some TLC. But yeah, this is the same weird style Sony. Okay, it's a little bit different because I can open it that way. It's a lot easier. It's not quite as clean as the other one, but pretty close. I'm just gonna vacuum this, pardon the noise. Okay. Yeah, same thing, just this hasn't turned into glue, but okay, the worm, yeah, okay. See, that's the nasty, that's the where it's, what was originally lubricant has turned into glue. Does exactly the opposite of what they put it there for. So that, let's put this here. Okay, so that, where's my IPA? That is not good for the motor. I mean, the drive will still probably work, but it definitely is, probably going to make more noise, and the motor that turns this worm is getting old, and so having to work harder because it has that resistance. It's certainly not going to help prolong it in its old age. I'm trying to avoid taking this fully apart. I think I got, yeah, okay. So again, I'll just put some fresh super lube, and this is typically the exact product that they would have used in the factories when they made those drives. So, and then as far as if the inject, that seems smooth. Yeah, so there's really nothing else, and this has that same unknown eject motor. So, okay. Okay, that's not right. We get the little spring. There we go. So it keeps the little flap closed. Okay. So I'm happy with those two. The G3, that one. Well, none of these require screws to get them open. That's makes my day, honestly. But why is it about? There we go. Yeah, this one is maybe up there with the dirtiest. Oh no, this is okay. I'm familiar with this one. This is the one that has just one screw in it. It's maybe up there with the dirtiest drives I've ever seen. We'll see. Definitely not the worst, but not one I would want to put a disk into its current state of uncleanliness. Yeah. So it happens over time, and depends on the conditions where the drive was stored or where the whole computer was stored. Okay, this one needs to come slightly farther apart to take care of it. Why won't this little spring come? There we go. And this one, I'm trying to remember. This is a Mitsubishi, so it is behaves differently from the Sony. Yeah, wow, that didn't, even the up and down motion is not great because of the what's turned into glue here. Okay. Oh, that's right. Take the eject button thing off because somehow that has to do with retaining the drive together, but I don't remember exactly how. I think if it's this model. Oh, this is really sticky. This is, look at this. This is like, this is petrified right here. That's what remains of the lubricant on the worm. It's literally turned into, it's like earwax. Sorry, that's kind of gross, but that's kind of exactly what it's like. It's not as sticky as it could be, but it's better to have nothing there than to have that. That was pretty bad. Okay. Shoot, how the heck do these ones come out? I've done this so many times. I just haven't done one of these Mitsubishi ones in a minute. Something about this has to slide off. I know it has to slide off. There, now I can at least see it. Where is the something a little bit flatter? This. Oh, that doesn't want to come off either. It definitely, what gets it loose is this eject button. I know it. I just don't know how to get the eject button to come off. This is crazy. I don't want to break it. Somewhere I made a video about this too, but it's not on YouTube. I did document how to get it open. There, now it's more accessible. Is it something in the... Actually, this is riveting to watch. Well, this is crazy. Okay, well, I don't want to give up on this, but it has to get cleaned, and well, maybe I can, you know what? Maybe I can do it with this static safe brush here. Sort of sweep the dust out of it. No, because it's got to get relubricated. Well, this button does not want to come off. I'm sure this is the one where the button, you know, but as I'm looking at it, I can't see how the button would. Oh, okay, I see how to get it off though. I still don't see why it would be the thing retaining it. Where are my little tweezers? What did I do with those little tweezers? I had them. I was using them to point at something. They're there. There's a thing back there. That's the button come off. There we go. Okay. Now, I believe like magic, yes. So somehow by getting that button off of there, it frees this thing. I figured out at one point how that worked, but there we go. Okay. That was the hard part. Now, this is constructed so differently from the older ones. Yeah, so this is, again, this is what was lubricant that's turned into glue. I mean, the whole thing is just turned into glue. Oh, I see. Yeah, the eject motor works totally differently on this style too. I think, oh yeah, that's right. And this one has a captive motor because its ribbon cable doesn't come loose. One. This is the wrong size screw or bit. Oh, it's this one. So I can lift the motor, but I can't take it out because it's attached by a ribbon. But that's okay because that's as much as I need to get out. All right. This, I'm going to go ahead and say this is the worst of this style drive I've ever seen. No offense. It's not you. I'm sure it was like this before you got it. IPA does seem to be working to get this. It's now glue mostly off of here. Everything's got, it's weird because like everything's got this sort of sticky, even where there's, yeah, even where the metal never had any grease on it. It's become sticky for some reason. I don't know what got inside of it to make it like that, but anyway. Okay. And yeah, the worm on this one is really gunked up with this stuff. Okay. Okay, then we got this piece. I almost want to wash it in the sink, but I'm not going to. Yeah, well, that is even the places that aren't greased. I don't know what this substance is. It's not grease, but there's something that makes the whole thing sticky. A little weird. It could be, my guess is whatever environment that G3 was used in. Although if this is an all-in-one, this would have been from a school. So it shouldn't have been like a, grease in the air kind of environment. That's where I was going with that. train of thought that I didn't finish. So, chances are this computer lived its entire production life in a computer lab or something, in a K-12 school. That's where they were typically found. Okay, then we got this top one. Yeah, same thing. It's even on the underside, so it's not just gravity making it settle. It's like it's thoroughly coated in there. It's weird. Okay. All right. Did I miss any pieces? Lid. So I'm going to assume this drive, G3 drive, floppy drive, works. But it may work better now. Let's see. Figure out what part moves. Let's see. Okay, there's nothing really that does this slide on. Just trying to see if there's anywhere that needs to be greased. Oh, that goes underneath. Well, this slides, but I can't find anything that really that this sits on to grease other than this part, which is slippery because it's not metal on metal. So I don't think the bottom part needs any grease. This, however, this part. Not use too much. The goal is to not use so much oil or grease that it drips onto the disc. Which is conceivable, could happen. This is not the most thorough I've ever done one of these, but it's, I think, going to be good enough. Okay. So now, oh, wait a minute. That bottom piece in, I can put the eject motor back. Okay. Okay, that's good. And then this, oh, it's also piece there. Wow. Okay. Should probably clean under here. Okay. So now this is going to go under that thing, over these, and something I'm missing. Oh, I inject it here. Something's weird. Did I take out? There was a spring. dangling from something, or was that on a different drive? It's been on a different drive because I don't see where a spring would attach anyway. Okay. Should, and keep this in place, is this thing. Okay, now it was really hard to get it off the first time. This time it doesn't want to stay in place when I put it back. Very curious. There's a thing here that it's supposed to attach to. It's almost like it's not going all the way in. Sometimes floppy drives can be very frustrating. This would be one of those times. There we go. All right. Okay. Now, question is whether I can get this back in with that button already back on. And I'm afraid the answer might be no. Well, wait. No. Shoot. Got one side on. Darn it. Button just has to come off. It's so weird that button alone is what either makes this fit or not. Now that it's on, oh, there we go. Okay. It's weird now. It's not not injecting. What is? Something weird is happening here. Do I have a floppy disk? I don't. The one that I know where it is, I don't want to use for this. Don't. It shouldn't matter because pushing on that should make it inject. So why doesn't it? This is not. Okay, there's something. Yeah, there's something that's supposed to be happening here. I think there is a. It releases it, but it doesn't move it down. So maybe there is a spring. Wow. Oh, here's the spring. Okay. Now, where did that That one had a spring. Stupid of me. My guess is that this goes in under this. I'm going to have to take this stupid button off one more time. So I can move that. Get this loose. Okay. Now, if I were a spring, I would hook on there. I would hook on something else. Wow. I can't believe this. I don't usually do this. Does it go to? I think it goes on this. No. My only other guess is that it would. Seriously. So there's this channel in here where the spring could go. And where it should end up is on this little thing. But I don't see how it would connect to this little thing. So, okay. I'm going to stop this paint drying. And I'm going to look up the design for this and do this. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream because this is clearly not riveting to watch. And we'll see what happens when I get that power supply tomorrow morning, or tomorrow sometime. Not tomorrow morning, it's coming. And I may go ahead and recap these other cards just offline here because it's pretty straightforward. Oh, sorry, you just said, I didn't see that. Oh, see, I've got two chat windows, and one of them, it was not updating. Sorry. Okay, so you said the G3 was in an abandoned building from 2008 to 2021. Okay, so that could explain where that grease, whatever that is, came from. It's kind of gross, but anyway, it's mostly gone now. I would, I would trust a disk to put it inside of here at this point. So, and yes, I need to get the other caps as well. And I have a list of a couple other kinds of caps I need. So I will place an order for that and should have that by middle of next week. DigiKey usually ships out by the next day and usually takes 3 days. So I'll definitely have that next week. Anyway, all right. I guess that concludes the the paint drying. But what we did get accomplished here is that the other board is mostly recapped. There's just those 3 that I need to order. And then so tomorrow I'll get that power supply, and then sometime tomorrow I should also get that other drive, so I can test the G3 and see if it'll read that, because I know it read something before I sent it back the last time. I definitely connected something and booted it off IDE, so I'm hoping for good luck there. So anyway, all right, I'm gonna end it here. Have a good night.